Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. I hope you guys are doing well today. So I'm doing a little bit of different style video today. We're going to be having a look at Raider.io and going through just some information. Let's talk about what's going on currently with the Mythic Plus scene. What's the meta specs? What's the meta kind of everything really? Let's just talk about it and see how it goes. So interestingly enough, 21, 22s are already being done. I'm not particularly surprised. Last week was a fantastic week for pushing, but I mean, we are already seeing currently the highest key done is a 22 quarter stars in time, by the way, on Tyrannical Bursting Grievous week, which is a very, very impressive feat because that is not easy by any means. So I'm kind of interested in looking at different classes. Scores and things like that. And if this video is something you're interested in, I could potentially do the same for things like PvP and the raid as well. So let me know if this is the sort of video that you enjoy. So let's go through at the moment. This is all Mythic Plus class populations, all dungeons, all levels. Let's actually change it to over 10. I'm going to say over 10, over Thundering. From level 10 to level 10. That's not what I want. Mythic Plus 10 and up. So this is the class balance as it looks at the moment. And actually, it doesn't look particularly unbalanced. There are certain classes, i.e. Fire Mage, that seem to be suffering. So let's go across. There, I can't actually see the number because buggy website. But Prot and Fury both doing exceptionally well at the moment. This is something that is echoed in kind of the leaderboards. We've got Fury, Arms Warrior? That must be Fury, surely. But we have got high level prot warriors doing keys. They are probably just the best tank at the moment for Mythic Plus in general. Maybe not after a couple of nerfs recently. I imagine so. You then have paladins. So a good balance of paladins. None of them seem to be overpowered at the moment. They actually seem to be in quite a good place. They're not the best tank. I'd argue not the worst. Although all the tanks are pretty close together. Holy Pallies can kick out some insane amounts of healing, but suffer on some bosses at the moment where they aren't able to heal, i.e., they're not able to kind of hit mobs or get to a boss. They're not able to kick out that big amounts of healing which they need to do at times. So, have heard that Holy Pallies are struggling a little bit, and Red Pallies are doing quite well. I'm actually surprised to see them doing like not be so highly represented because Red Pallies are seemingly doing quite good in terms of kind of high cleave damage. We're seeing them, I believe, we're seeing them in the raids and things like that as well. So a little bit surprised that we're not seeing more Red Pallies. So Marksman has had its buffs, and Hunters all of a sudden have become meta once again. And we are seeing them. I mean, literally, we are seeing the number one key world this week is a marksman, has got a marksman hunter in it. The number three key marksman hunter. I imagine I could find other ones if I scroll down a little bit more as well. So once it's interesting to see that a few buffs and they're back in the game. Beastmaster Hunter once again also doing pretty well, quite simple to play, and seems to be doing well as well. I think actually at the moment, while Marksman may be better in general, Beastmaster isn't far off it, and if you wanted to play it, you definitely could get away with that. Survival, the lowest represented class, if I'm not mistaken, or lowest represented spec, if I'm not mistaken. Um, they need to. It's been in such a weird state for such a long time. I don't see survival in its current state. I don't see it just being a fun spec to play, and I don't know many people that really do enjoy it as a spec. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that one, but it's certainly not performing at the moment. Rogues. Outlaw Rogue is doing exceptionally well. Again, we can see in like all of the top keys, Outlaw, 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 Outlaw. Actually, Jacob 7 seems to be sub. Interesting. Obviously, it's a tyrannical week. I wonder if they're doing that just for the single target damage. It's quite interesting, but or maybe it's just the armory's bugging. Could be either. But yeah, so lots of outlaw rogues, both sub and assassination. Got low representation on 10 and above, but outlaws are just everywhere. They're doing really well at the moment. Priests. It's interesting. I haven't seen many priests, but I mean, we have got a priest in the top three currently, and no other priests in the top 20. So fair play to him. But Holy being the kind of superior healing spec it looks like at the moment, with Shadow being a playable but not fantastic in Mythic Plus, and then Disc being very underrepresented. In terms of DKs, then, so we are starting to see Blood DK come into the fold a little bit. They are being used in the raid as well, so obviously a lot of people are gearing in Mythic Plus for the raid. So it's not surprising to see some Blood DKs there, even if they weren't necessarily the best Mythic Plus tank. But they have quite a good representation at the moment. And Holy DK seems to be doing quite well as well, although they do seem to be hitting a niche. They're very good at big AoE pulls. They don't necessarily seem to be very good in other situations. So if they're hitting that niche, maybe it's good. If they're not, maybe not so good. And Frost at the moment, I haven't seen a Frost DK yet, which says a lot. I've done keys last week. I've done some keys this week. I've done some LFR, some raids, some PvP. I don't think I've seen a Frost DK yet, which is weird, actually. Chamois. Enhancement Chamois seems to absolutely pump. And again, we're seeing an Enhancement Chamois in the third spot. It's weird because they're not a class that's very often meta as a DPS. But actually, lots of Chamois in the top 20. They seem to be doing absolutely fine, and I know they can pump. So, yeah, fantastic. Resto Chamois, they had a couple of buffs recently, but yeah, I'm still not sure that they're quite where they need to be. They don't ever seem to be able to outplace a Preservation Evoker or a Resto Druid. You'd always bring them over them. Obviously, Preservation Evoker brings Bloodlust, so it's just the superior choice, I think. And Elemental seems to have been, it was quite highly talked about, especially in beta and coming into Dragonflight, but it seems to have just not lived up to the hype at all and been quite underrepresented. Mages, Arcane is king at the moment, and we are seeing. I imagine we're going to see a lot of Arcane just because of the raid. Now, obviously, a lot of the race to world first guilds are leveling. Gearing in Mythic Plus, and Arcane mages are doing exceptionally well in those circumstances at the moment. Obviously, we are now going into a tyrannical week, so we're going to want to kill the bosses quickly, of course. So Arcane Mage is a very good choice there. Aside from that, we are getting some frost play, actually quite similar frost play. It's interesting. I haven't seen very many frost mages, but they seem to be doing quite well. And then fire is non-existent pretty much. But I believe they've just had some more buffs today, so maybe that's something that will change. Demon Warlocks are just in such a weird state at the moment. As I talked about it in the videos that I've done recently of the How Good Are They series. Um, Destruction feels good, but just undertuned. Affliction feels odd and horrible, and literally, like, there's almost as few people playing Affliction, which is one of the most popular specs in WoW's history, as there is Survival Hunters. Like, that's bad. But Demonology Warlocks are one of the highest represented classes at the moment. They can just do it all. They can AoE, they can single target, they just absolutely pump. And actually, quite similarly, situation with Monk. Both Brewmaster and Mistweaver are just so overshadowed by other people and other specs that you would almost never really want to bring them unless you're a one trick. But Windwalker's doing so well that it's kind of everywhere. I mean, we're literally seeing it in what, like 10, 12 of the top 20 keys. It really is just that good a spec at the moment. And again, we are seeing them in raids and things like that. And I think you can get a lot of cross contamination between the two at the moment. Druid's quite interesting actually because obviously Resto Druid, we expected Resto Druid to be the best Mythic Plus healer. Um, they haven't quite translated to raid in the same way, but in Mythic Plus they are just king. Preservation then obviously being second then, but we are seeing lots of Resto Druids. I don't think anyone's surprised by this at all. Guardian Druid. Now, this is not one I'm. This is one I'm not surprised about. I've played recently with a friend of mine who plays Guardian Druid, and they are quite insane. Their damage is really good. The healing they can kick out in melee is just insane. And yeah, so actually been quite impressed by Guardian Druid and not surprised by this representation at all. Balance and Feral. So again, people talked really highly about Feral. It was supposed to be kind of that A tier class, similar to Windwalker, similar to Enhancement Chamois, similar to a Fury Warrior, and we aren't seeing the representation there at all for Feral Druids. Balance Balance is weird because they're not bad at all. Again, it's kind of a meme in the WoW community that balance druids will always complain that they're doing bad, even if they're number one DPS. But yeah, they seem to be in an okay spot, and their representation kind of shows that, but not certainly not in the meta specs right now. Havoc has just had some nerfs, but it is, I believe, the highest represented class in. It is, yeah, it's the highest represented spec in Mythic Plus at the moment on plus 10s, and we're seeing them again pretty much in every plus 20 key. They just do so much damage. And again, it has been nerfed a little bit now. I wonder if that's going to change again this week. Again, we are looking at some of the keys this week. I don't see a Demon Hunter there. We don't see a Demon Hunter in this key, which was done yesterday. We are starting to see actually a couple of keys not running, so maybe they will fall out of favor just a little bit now. And Vengeance, they just can't compete with how strong Warrior and Blood DK is. Obviously, Blood DK is a little bit overpowered because it's coming from the raid, and obviously Prot Warriors are as well, I suppose. But yeah, both of them at the moment higher representation than the Vengeance Demon Hunter, and I'm unlikely to see that change currently. And then Preservation, sorry, Evoker, which I'm a little bit surprised because it's the new spec. Obviously, everyone's kind of going to have one. And Preservation's so good at the moment that I kind of expected it to be a little bit higher, actually. But um, it's the second highest healer by quite a substantial margin. Um, but yeah, it's. And then I'm actually surprised that Devastation's seen this much gameplay. Again, I don't think there is a single Devastation in the top 20 keys. Is there one in the top 40? Let's have a look at the second page. One. There's one Devastation Evoker in the top 40 keys. So, but there is lots doing level 10s and above. So, quite interesting that there is actually quite a good representation of those. Have got a guide coming out if it's not already out for these soon. So, yeah. So very interesting to see. I'm going to have a look at a couple of different specs at the moment. So let's have a look. Warlock's quite interesting because you literally just can't see anyone who's not playing Demonology. Um, I believe there's a way to do this by spec as well. That's what I was trying to do anyway. There we go. So if we look at Affliction, just as an example, 2200, which is actually like quite impressive considering that they just aren't very good right now. If we look at Demonology as a comparison, 2500, like 300 DPS, 300 Raider IO at that level is extreme. Like almost full 20s and things like that. So I think that's pretty insane actually. Looking at Devastation Evoker, obviously my main at the moment. 24, so about 100 less than the Warlocks. Let's have a look at Havoc Demon Hunter. I imagine that's got to be the highest ones, right? 2597. Let's have a look and see what just the highest DPS is. So the highest DPS at the moment is actually a Hunter. Wow, okay. At 2746. It's actually quite interesting. There's a good little spread here of classes. But we are seeing that melee is absolutely king right now. Obviously, exclude these hunters. Melee, 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 melee. Just all of them down, all here, are all melee, except the hunter and then the one warlock. So in the top 20, like 16 are melee. We are seeing that being a really strong kind of two melee, one ranged meta as such. So yeah, quite an interesting kind of set of stats, I suppose. If this is something that you're interested in, I've kind of just rambled for 10-15 minutes, but if this is something you're interested in, please let me know. We can do something similar for Raid, or if there's more stats that you're interested in for Mythic Plus, things like that, let me know. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Bye.